Of the Four Peaks Fundraiser Challenge for Focus Ireland this weekend. We are joined by two brave men, Des and Declan, who have both faced homelessness in the last few years, and Fiona McLaughlin, who herself is embarking on the Four Peaks Challenge. She joins us also. You're all very welcome to the show. Declan, I'm going to come to you, and we were just discussing this in the break, that maybe homelessness in the days of the Celtic Tiger was something people thought happened to other people, but now we know it happens to lots of people, to all sorts of people, and it's a reality we've all had to think about, and many of us face. You did face it.
Yes.
You were living in rented accommodation, you were attending college, life was good. What happened then?
Landlord decided to sell up. You know, get out of the property, you know, private rented accommodation, sell the building, get his money back, which is perfectly entitled to do, and well, that was that.
And you tried to look for other rented accommodation, but people didn't want to take rent allowance.
Not just that, it was also a case that there was an awful lot of students coming into the city trying to start college, and yeah, it was impossible. I would go see maybe 120, 130 places, 20, 30, 40 people, you know, looking for the same room, essentially. So, yeah, hard.
So you ended up squatting?
I ended up squatting, sort of illegally, you know. I'm not a criminal, but no choice. It was either that or the street. So safer in the squat. So.
But you were essentially without a home, really, after a while.
Yeah.
And what happened? I mean, when you're actually homeless, when you're without somewhere to go and lay your head, what effect does that have on you emotionally and mentally?
It destroys your soul, really. You lose hope. You kind of you lose faith in yourself. You lose all confidence in yourself. You don't feel human. You feel subhuman. You know.
And of course, without an address, Declan, you can't interface with society as we know it. All of the things that we all do.
You're not part of society unless you have an address.
And if you can't give an address, you can't deal with the social services.
You have no post address, so if you haven't got a post address, you've no help whatsoever.
And what did that do to your rental loans, by the way? Was that withdrawn? Was your rental loans withdrawn?
Yes, well, if you don't have accommodation, you lose your rental loans, yeah.
So the one bit of help you were getting from the state was taken away from you because you didn't have somewhere to pay the rent.
It's the typical catch-22, you know.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah.
And at what stage did you contact Focus Ireland?
Straight away.
Straight away. What did they do for you?
Well, you go in, linked in with the crisis desk, and from the crisis desk then managed to get a key worker. And when you get a key worker, then things really start to move. Then they navigate you through all the
red tape and the forms
and the red tape, and they deal with a lot of the local authorities and HSC and that kind of thing. And
Declan, they know this territory very well, and they literally have the route map for it. But even knowing the territory as well as they do, how long does it actually take from the time that you go to them to the time you actually end up with a proper roof over your head again?
Well, for myself personally, it was a year.
Wow.
So, and that was quite good. That was quite good going.
And that's fast.
Yeah.
So
but
if you're not using somebody like Focus or dealing with somebody like that, then your chances are zero.
Pretty much, yeah. But good things don't happen quickly.
And you're happy now? You're in rented accommodation again now?
It's part of the rented accommodation scheme. It's Dublin City Council's Ross scheme.
Okay.
So,
Des, tell us your story. Yours is a very different story to Declan's.
Well, basically, it was a marital breakdown, you know, and I wasn't going to see my wife walk the street, so
you had to go.
I had to go. So I was going from friend to friend, and you know, and contacted with the crisis desk at Declan said and Focus, and at that time they referred me to the HSE homeless unit in James Street, and they sent me to a B&B bed and breakfast. And people tended a bed and breakfast a luxury. Accommodation was actually deplorable, you know, and it was filthy, it was dirty. But thank God I had a roof over my head at least. And that was something that I did appreciate at that time. You know, I had that little bit of faith, you know, to keep going, and you know, and then I eventually got a key worker with Focus, and the encouragement and the direction was, you know, I wouldn't have really got, you know, survived really.
What do you think would have happened to you if you hadn't come across Focus?
Well, like, you know, I was 20. I'm a non-drinker, non-smoker. I had an addiction problem 24 years ago, or at that time I had, you know, and all that was facing me, you know, going back to, you know, and it would have been worse than ever before. You know, I also went into shock, you know. I ended up in the Mater Hospital, you know, my voice gone and the pain, passing water and excruciating pain. And I thought it was a physical aspect, and the doctor in there in the A&E wanted me to see a psychiatrist, but I couldn't even understand that at that time. I was in so much shock and so much trauma that was facing me, you know. And
do you think you were on the edge of a breakdown, or beginning? Do you think you were having a breakdown, or beginning to have a breakdown?
Well, I must have been going through one at the time. At that time, yes, it was. You know, and you know, but with the experience you had over the 24 years of sobriety, that's what sort of kept.
Because you see, when you lose, it's not just when you. I mean, people say, "Oh, you lose a roof over your head," but you don't lose a roof over your head. You lose everything that was under that roof as well. Yeah. So it's a life that's gone, not just, you know, the physical abode.
Yes.
How do you deal with that?
Well, as I said, I had a support with homeless, and I had a fairly good network of support from friends that I'd been known a long time, you know, and I had a support from them as well. And also Sister Concilio, the Newry team, they gave me a bit of support for the time being, you know. And
Des, you're now in accommodation again?
I'm in settled accommodation.
You're in settled accommodation. But would you agree with Declan that the effect it had on you at the time was, well, you described it as soul-destroying, quite literally?
Yeah, the self-esteem, you know. The self-esteem was really, you know,
that's the big one.
Knocked, completely knocked. And like the stereotype of somebody with a cup and in the street is not exactly the full vision of homelessness.
Do you think people still view it that way?
Yes, I sense that, yeah.
You know. And when you tell people about your experience, are they taken aback that it couldn't happen to someone like you? Are they surprised?
Well, I never really thought about it so much, you know, only through my network, you know, through my own friends that would understand that situation. Some of them came from that background themselves, you know. But I say in generally, you know, people would be surprised, I'm sure, you know, would be surprised what we're sharing this morning, you know.
Well,
there is a view that a lot of the people who are on the streets are there because they want to, or that they've opted out of society for some reason or other, or alternatively that they're derelicts and you know, they've chosen to go down a path of drink and drugs and whatever. And in some senses, people kind of go, well, look, that's what you've chosen, so that's what you deserve. But an awful lot of the people out there are there because they have nowhere else to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of hard for us to believe. I mean, if you have friends and family and a support network, you think, oh, well, there must be somebody.
There'll be a sofa you can crash on, or
I think there's a very people make the mistake of looking at somebody, the typical stereotype of somebody sitting in a doorway with a cup. There are different levels of crisis. Everybody's in a different level of crisis, and when nothing's done, it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. So when you see somebody in a doorway, they will be at a very, very extreme level of crisis. Generally, homelessness, you become institutionalized in it. And a natural survival instinct is to stay. You settle for what you have.
Yeah. Your doorway, you're sleeping
you
bag,
kind of think in your head that you deserve it for some reason and that you just stay there, you know.
And that's that low self-esteem that Des was talking about. Yeah. Fiona, we'll bring you in here now, because this weekend there is the Four Peaks Challenge, which takes place and raises huge amounts of money for Focus Ireland, and as we can see, does incredibly deserving work. Why did you decide to get involved?
Well, I mean, thanks to the two guys for coming in. I mean, I really think it puts an awful lot of stuff into perspective. I mean, I feel so privileged every day owning my own property, irrespective of what it's worth at the moment. And it's something that, because of my work in the property sector, that has meant a huge amount to me for a long number of years. But I have to blame you, really, because a few weeks ago, coming into the TV3 studios, you nabbed me and said, oh, come on, you have to do the Four Peaks Challenge or whatever. And I was saying, no, I'd never be ready in time, And you said it was for Focus Ireland, and I thought, okay, it's fate, I have to do it. And I've since found out that Sinead is, of course, a mountain goat, you know. But through a lot of hard training, and I have to say thanks so much to Fracas Foran, who has worked very hard on getting me fit over the last few weeks at full cost to himself. He's donated the service as well. I'm blown away by the people around me and their willingness to donate and support. And I think we were talking about this earlier, that it is feeling a little bit closer to the bone, the whole idea of not having a place to call your home. And through circumstances, overnight, things can change where you lose a job, a marriage breaks up. It's, you know, a lot of fault and blame was attached to homeless people before. And now we can see that it can be just happenstance, you know, can be
People
just...
are a bit more understanding of it now.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I think so. So, yeah, a bit trepidatious and apprehensive about this weekend, but I'm looking forward to it too, you know.
Now, there's 80 teams of about 4 people heading off this weekend,
That's right.
and it's all booked up. But for people at home, there's another one in October that they can
There
sign up
is,
to do for
there
Focus
is.
Ireland again.
I mean, a couple of things, you know, charity donations are down, and obviously Focus Ireland has gotten less funding this year as well. They have raised huge amounts of money over the last, this is the 11th Focus, our Four Peaks Challenge. So you can still donate, there's still time to donate. I mean, you can log on to privateseller.ie, and there's a link there to the official donation page, and we'd be more than delighted to take donations even at this stage. But also there's a load of events coming up. There's an individual highest peak challenge in August, and this event has been so popular, the Four Peaks. There's actually another one in September between the 17th and the 19th. So if you